Having a high heart rate before you even start your run can be extremely frustrating and very challenging to deal with. However, there are 5 things that you can do to help you deal with having a high heart rate before you even start your run. Today, we're going to talk about that and some of the doubts that I've been having in the last little while. I've got some problems, and I'll explain that later on in today's video. But first, we're going to start off with those 5 things that you can do to reduce having a high heart rate even before you start your run. And I'll give you some solutions on what to do to fix them. Have you ever gone for a run and realized that your heart rate is 10 beats higher than your previous day? If you're anything like me, I'm sure you have. I know over the past 3 years I have, and since I do most of my running using low heart rate training such as the Maffetone method and zone 2 training, very frustrating to think you're doing something wrong and you'll never build a strong aerobic. As someone who's trained using the Maffetone method and zone 2, I've experienced and experimented with ways to deal with the issue of high heart rate before a run in the morning. So here are my 5 reasons why you might have a higher heart rate than normal before a run. The anticipation of a run, especially if it's a challenging workout, race, or even the thought of doing a MAF test, can and will trigger the body's stress response, leading to a higher heart rate. General stress and anxiety can elevate your heart rate before a run, as well as poor sleep. So get your sleep. Dehydration can cause your heart rate to increase as your body works harder to pump blood and oxygen to your muscles. Now, you remember when you wake up in the morning, you most likely have gone about 7 or more hours without any water. Caffeine intake. Look, I like coffee, and since it contains caffeine, I know I need to be careful. Also, some of my electrolyte drinks contain caffeine like Tailwind, and that can temporarily increase my heart rate due to its stimulus effects on the central nervous system. Physical conditioning. If you're not adequately conditioned for the running or you're pushing yourself beyond your current fitness level, your heart rate is going to rise quickly and it's going to stay elevated for longer even after your run. Performing a thorough warm-up before your run can also prepare your body for upcoming run and reduce the stress placed on your cardiovascular system. Look, in some cases, a consistent elevated heart rate before running may be a sign of an underlying medical condition, such as anemia, thyroid disorders, or arrhythmias. So here are a few ways that I keep my heart rate low before and during my runs. To keep the stress down, I use techniques such as deep breathing, visualization, muscle relaxation, as they can all help calm my nerves and lower my heart rate. Now, when I get up in the morning, I will be dehydrated. So 20 minutes before my run, I drink about a cup of water. If you suffer from night sweats, you're definitely going to be dehydrated. And if you don't have AC in the house, then you're going to have to drink a little bit more water because your pee might be a very different shade of yellow. Yeah, I know, because I've been there. Now, when you're on your long run, you will need to make sure that you are drinking your electrolytes as you run longer and longer. Cardiac drift will start to happen, and for each runner, it will happen at a different point in your run. Let me tell you a story about cardiac drift. There was a day that I was out running, and I was probably about 4 miles in, and I started to notice my heart rate start to get elevated. At first, I thought it was the hills, was my stress level, thinking about running the hills. It wasn't the hills. I found myself running on flat ground, and as I ran on flat ground, I also started to notice my heart rate was getting higher and higher and higher, and I kind of was like, what the heck is going on? And then I kind of noticed felt like I was laboring, like it was so much harder to think too much more about it until I started using heart rate training. Now, when I start using this method, I realized that over time, you're going to notice that your heart rate gets higher if you're still trying to run at the same pace. So if you kind of reversed it around and said, look, I'm going to run at the same heart rate, and that's going to dictate what my pace is. And that's what happened when I started using the Maffetone method, and I started to see the longer I went, I would notice that I would get slower and slower and slower. Now, it's going to be different for everybody, and mine started, about 5 miles, 6 miles, about 10 kilometers, 9 kilometers, something like that. That's when I noticed it start to happen to me. Really try to figure out what was going on, and I noticed that when I went running, I didn't take any electrolytes with me. No water, no no tailwind, no noon tablets, nothing. I'm losing electrolytes. I'm losing fluid out of my body. I need to make sure I put that back in. And when I started to kind of rehydrate myself, the longer my runs went, because again, I was training for an ultra marathon, that's when I started to notice I was able to run longer distances and still maintain that same heart rate. It's harder to pump your blood when you're getting dehydrated. And so when I replenished all of that, things really started to improve. The Maffetone method kind of taught me a little bit about looking out for things like that. So cardiac drift, yeah, it's a real thing. You will get slower. It will catch up and there won't be anything you can do about it other than slow down. It's just going to be natural. However, the one thing I did find, I was able to push back when cardiac drift would happen, and I was able to deal with that by hydrating with electrolytes. And the stronger I got as a runner, I also didn't feel like I was being really stressed as I improved as a runner. So I don't know if that was a factor, but I just noticed things got much better than they were when I wasn't drinking anything. Now, how much should you drink? When should you drink? Again, it's all going to be on you as the runner, right? We're all different. We're all different weights, different sizes, different frames, different everything, right? Some of us run when it's really, really hot. Some of us run where it's really, really cold. So there's a lot of those factors that kind of contribute to that. So you may have to go out and do a couple of runs to kind of figure out where that drift is. Now, if you're sensitive to caffeine, consider reducing your intake, have decaf, or avoid it altogether before your runs. Caffeine affects people differently. However, for me, I find that my heart rate starts to beat higher about 30 to 45 minutes after I drink it. And since I'm running during that time, it's caused my heart rate to soar during what is supposed to be my low heart rate training. So that can be kind of frustrating. Now when I was just starting out using low heart rate training, and then later on when I was running longer runs, I had to slowly increase the intensity and duration of my runs. So incorporating regular aerobic running into my day and allowing proper rest and recovery helped improve my overall fitness and lowered my resting heart rate. Also, before my run, I include dynamic stretches, mobility exercises, and a short period of very low intense jogging or brisk walking to gradually elevate my heart rate and increase the blood flow to my muscles. I didn't like seeing my heart rate spike for a few minutes when I just started out on my run. I'm sure some of you guys may have seen that before. Now, if you frequently experience unexplained changes in heart rate or other concerning symptoms, consult with a healthcare professional, doctor, for further evaluation and guidance. I'm no doctor, but if that's happening, something is going on and that's not normal. So you really want to get that thing checked out. Now, I talked about cardiac drift. And in this video right here, I get into the details as to what that is and why you need to pay attention to it, because otherwise it could really hinder your Maffetone training. I feel like I'm getting stronger when I do these hill repeats. However, there's a seed of doubt that creeps upon me the day after. And that is my knee. That is my foot.
We're doing 5 of them.
Plantar fasciitis sucks.
Should be fun.
And my body's telling me something. I gotta work out some of my connective chain,
Some good
my left leg, because I feel something coming on and I need to get ahead of it before it becomes something big. Listen, Dave. Listen, because your body is telling you something that you need to pay attention to. So deal with it before it becomes a big problem. Remember, we like solutions, not problems. My stress level is pretty high. There's a lot going on in my world and things I haven't talked about on the channel. I may open up a little bit more about them. However, yeah, I worry, and I worry about a lot of things.
I got 5 of them done. Oh, and I feel like someone just punched me in the stomach.
Now, when I'm doing hill repeats, it's one of those things where my heart rate does start to get higher and higher and higher before I go for a run, because this stress and anxiety of thinking about doing that run starts to set me off in a little bit of a spiral. Today's run incorporated a lot of hill repeats. I did 5 today, which was amazing, and I'm actually getting faster. The very first one was just kind of a warm-up. It really wasn't great, but after that, like the remainder of them really did see improvement. And if I compare where I was a couple of years ago to where I was last week to where I am now, man, hands down, the Maffetone method has prepared me and has put me into a great position to be able to do the hill running that I'm doing now. And that is a great next phase for me in my training, in my running. The one thing that I would want to say to all of you who are using the Maffetone method, who sometimes may get freaked out with all of the different moving components of it, trust the process. It takes time, but when you're consistent enough, good things happen. And I wouldn't be doing any of these hill repeats if it wasn't for the Maffetone method. So I'm just gonna hang my hat on that. Like I always say, get out and run.
My wife isn't doing very well. Over the last couple of years, we've been looking for answers, and we're still waiting. Things aren't good, but we're doing what we can. Life is very stressful, but we're very optimistic. We just keep moving forward.